Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Hey guys, we're your hosts, M and J, and today we're talking about the Season 3 finale of Netflix's She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. This episode picks up where the last one left off, and we get introduced to some characters that have been built up over the series, so that's kind of exciting, but at the same time they do raise a lot of questions. Ones that might not have been intentional, but I'm getting ahead of myself. A new reality of Etheria was created since the Fright Zone collapsed into the void, so the Horde never existed, and therefore the war never existed. In Bright Moon, Glimmer and Angella are playing, and they seem to have a good relationship. King Micah is here, and the three of them are able to live together as a family. He doesn't look like his mural, something even Adora points out later. He's actually shorter than I was expecting. I think he's even shorter than his sister. Micah has been teaching Glimmer magic in this reality, but the captain of the guard comes rushing in telling them about an intruder, which we all know it's Adora. Apparently, instead of going to the front door of the castle, she tried to break into Glimmer's bedroom. I guess she's just used to going in that way. They send Glimmer off to safety while they try to go interrogate the prisoner, but Glimmer looks back and sees Adora being brought in, and Adora calls out to her, but the guards just keep making her walk. Meanwhile, in this perfect world, Bo is the apprentice historian, which he hates. He's also wearing a shirt, which he hates, and Glimmer is still walking all over him. I guess there's always someone getting the short end of the stick in paradise, but I'm more sympathetic to Kyle. Bo, like most of the characters, has kind of been a disaster this whole series, and Kyle just gets the short end of the stick all the time, regardless of realities. Glimmer tells Bo there's a trespasser in Bright Moon and they need to figure out who she is. Bo asks why, and Glimmer says she feels like she knows this girl, so she wants them to spy on her parents' interrogation. Bo isn't happy about this, but Glimmer covers his mouth and tells him that if he doesn't want to come along, all he has to do is say so, which he can't do because she's covering his mouth, so she says she doesn't hear any protests and drags him along. Adora is brought before the king and queen where she's shocked to see that Micah is alive. Micah casts a truth spell on her so they can be sure she's being honest. Adora word vomits the entire situation with the portal, and she tells them to remember what happened yesterday, and the reason why they can't is because the portal has affected reality so much. But this just makes them get angry and offended, and they refuse to believe her, despite Micah's truth spell. Things get worse when Adora mentions that King Micah is dead normally, and they take it as she's threatening the king, so the captain pulls her sword on her. Adora pleads again to see Bo and Glimmer because she needs them to save the world. Micah orders the guards to take her away to the holding cell, but the guards look around confused, until he specifies that he's talking about the spare bedroom. Shouldn't the guards know this? I know this is supposed to be the perfect world, but still, I just don't get why Bright Moon has guards but no dungeon, in this or any other reality. Micah tells Angella that he must have done his truth spell wrong. I guess they're that far in denial. Glimmer teleports herself and Bo into the spare bedroom. Adora's happy to see them, but they still don't trust her. Glimmer says that her dad has never messed up a spell, so she must have been telling the truth, but she's not sure how that could be. At least Glimmer believes in her dad. Adora says of course they were listening in, but that makes Bo angry. He tells her to stop pretending that she knows them, because they don't. So Adora starts talking about who they really are. Glimmer says those things can't be true because she's just a princess, and Bo isn't a fighter. I don't know why she says she's just a princess. She's been studying magic with her dad. Plus, what's wrong with being a princess? She can be a princess and a fighter. But Bo grabs at his shirt, saying that this isn't right. He says everyone keeps saying that everything is perfect, and that everything is perfect. I really don't care for them drawing so much attention to Bo's abs. I get that this character has always had his abs out, but I feel like it wasn't a big deal until this series. Suddenly it's a part of his character. It's a little weird. Bo's questioning causes Glimmer to remember that her father isn't with them anymore. She flashes back to when she was a kid looking at his mural, and actually baby Glimmer is pretty cute. She has a looky plushie, and I can appreciate the callback. She gets upset and her friends console her, but they're interrupted because Bright Moon is starting to fall apart. They ask Adora what they have to do, and she says they need to fix reality somehow. She's still not sure what Madame Raz meant when she said go back to the beginning. Why do wise old characters always have to talk in riddles? Bo thinks that if this started with a portal, maybe they need to find someone who can open portals, and that makes him remember Entrapta. Adora wants Glimmer to teleport them all the way to Drill, but Glimmer says she could barely teleport herself and Bo into the spare bedroom. See, now I don't know what to believe. Did she teleport back from the Crimson Waste? Does Glimmer have that kind of power? But Adora says they'll just have to do what they always do. Improvise. Adora drags the two of them out of the room, taking out 2 guards in the process. Just as reckless as always, I'm sure Adora is happy to have the band back together. The others are concerned to find out this is how they usually do things. Now Glimmer knows what it feels like to be dragged around. They end up running into the captain of the guards, and instead of trying to talk to her and explain themselves, Glimmer just shoots her with one of her energy blasts. At least she apologizes as they run off. That's more than she usually does. This is supposed to be the perfect reality after all. They end up running into a dead end since the door they were going to was sucked into the void, so they end up getting cornered by the king and queen. Angella threatens Adora, but Glimmer tells her to stop. This causes the queen to have flashbacks and realize what's going on. Glimmer says she's sorry, but they have to fix this. Although it feels like she's apologizing just because she's cornered instead of because she actually feels that way. Maybe they could all work together to save reality, instead of constantly shutting out her mom. But instead the floor opens up and swallows the 3 of them. Conveniently, they end up in Drill, right inside Entrapta's lab. The king and queen have moved to the rune stone as Angella watches the void closing in on them. Micah approaches her, apparently not having snapped out of it yet, saying that they'll get Glimmer back, and then everything will be perfect. Angella says that this is perfect, but she can't live with only her memories, and that Glimmer needs her, so she kisses him on the cheek and flies off. Figures that Angella would put Glimmer over her own happiness, while Glimmer doesn't think about her at all. Personally, I would have taken Micah with if I were her. Go on one last adventure, even if it was just a dream. And why not kiss him on the lips? She lost him years ago, and that's how she says goodbye?
I've seen better kisses on an envelope.
But Micah starts to remember, and he calls out to Angella. He doesn't get to finish what he's saying, but it basically implies that he's not dead, and everyone just misinterpreted what happened to him. There was a theory around the show that Micah was alive all along, so it's interesting to get some kind of information on that. But unfortunately, he gets sucked into the void before we can find out anything else. Back in Drill, Entrapta is excited to have human visitors. She says it's usually just her and her robots, but she has made a robot version of Scorpia and Hordak, so even though she doesn't remember them, there's still something there. I wonder why she didn't make a Catra robot. It's actually kind of sad because in the original series, Catra and Entrapta got along really well. She wants to study them, but Adora interrupts her, telling her that they have something really important to tell her, even though it might sound crazy. But Entrapta is able to guess that they want to talk to her about time and space falling apart. They're surprised that she already knows about this, but I wasn't. This is right up her alley. She explains that she's been picking up anomalies and believes the only explanation is an unstable portal. The portal is sucking everything into it, and eventually nothing will be left. They ask her if she knows how to stop this, and she says the only way to stop it is from inside the portal, but whoever stops it will end up getting stuck in between realities and not be able to return. But she gets excited about all the data that person could collect. Adora wants to believe there's another way, and she asks Entrapta to remember when she and Hordak made the portal, which causes Entrapta to remember Hordak, but she also remembers Catra and how she was attacked. Drill starts falling apart, and Entrapta says that the anomalies are following Adora because it's her sword that's causing this. Entrapta starts fading away, which is kind of weird because we didn't see anyone else fade away. They all got sucked into the light. And why is only Entrapta fading? As she's fading away, she tells Adora that she has to remove the sword from inside the portal, and that once she does, everything will be right again. She also says it was nice being friends with them. Drill vanishes and they end up being teleported to the beacon, but there are stars in the sky, implying that they've jumped through space and time. The stars aren't the only thing from the past they see. Mara happens to be standing in front of the beacon. She takes a step towards them and looks like she wants to say something, but the beacon is engulfed by the void. I guess it was cool to see her in the flesh for a minute, but her appearance here does raise a few questions. In the flashbacks we saw of her, Mara was always depicted as blonde, but here she has darker features. I know we brought up this point a few times on our Twitter, but I think this should be addressed. This show puts a lot of emphasis on outward appearances. The show takes a lot of pride in a diverse cast, and they have articles and articles talking about the representation in the show. But seeing Mara here made me realize that almost every depiction of She-Ra that we've seen in this show has been of a blonde woman. even Mara herself in the flashbacks. The only exception I remember is the wood carving in Plumeria, but it's a wood carving so it makes sense that it wouldn't have color. But the She-Ra with a dragon was blonde, and so is the She-Ra in the stained glass. This isn't a big deal for the original show since there was only one She-Ra, and her appearance reflected Adora, but in this show there's a long line of She-Ras, and obviously they wouldn't all look alike. The issue is that She-Ra seems to always look the same, and that's kind of strange coming from a show with this kind of marketing, since it looks like there's a character that's been whitewashed. A user on Twitter reached out to us with a post on Tumblr from Ray Geiger addressing the situation. Geiger is the same person who designed Entrapta, and said they were around the same age. The post says that people have been asking about the situation. Geiger explains that the whole thing was because of a lighting issue, saying that the scene with the flashback had very blown out lighting for dramatic effect, and that made the character look white even though she isn't normally, although that doesn't actually explain the blonde hair. The post is also tagged with, "I'm not an official spokesman of Dreamworks or of anybody on my team or anybody who holds the rights to the She-Ra franchise," so that's something to consider too. Although, didn't Geiger have the final say on Entrapta's age? We're gonna link the post below so you can check it out for yourselves. Maybe Mara's design came later so they just used Adora's design in this case, and this was an oversight. It's just that artists on Twitter often get harassed for this kind of stuff. Personally, I think artists should have the freedom to make whatever they want without being bullied for it, but this isn't like an individual artist on Twitter or Tumblr expressing themselves. This is a large corporation. Dreamworks made it a point to talk about how they didn't want thin white characters to be their heroes in all the marketing for the show, and how progressive they were, only to have a whitewashing incident. It's just awkward. Anyway, the entire Beacon and Mara ends up getting sucked into the void in front of them. Adora tells Bow and Glimmer she needs to go on alone to protect them, since the anomaly is centered around her, although even if they do split up, the anomaly will catch up to them eventually. But Glimmer stops her anyway. The three of them have a heart-to-heart about how well they know each other and how they're best friends, and then they start dramatically fading away just like Entrapta did. Honestly, this fading away kind of feels more like it's just for dramatic effect instead of it actually following the rules that this situation set up. Of course they faded away while they had this dramatic speech to her. It all just seems so contrived, and then she breaks down again with this big dramatic music. I think her breaking down was more impactful in the previous episode because she spent so much time trying to save people, and in the end couldn't save anyone, plus Catra kinda stabbed her in the back. Meanwhile in this episode everyone just dramatically faded away, but as if things couldn't get any worse for Adora, Catra shows up. Surprisingly, Adora doesn't really react to her, even though the last time she saw her she'd thrown herself into the void and was presumed dead. Catra attacks Adora, and each one of her attacks ends up sending them to a new location. She guilt trips Adora like she's been doing for the whole series, but also says a lot of things that Adora is very insecure about, like this is all her fault for getting captured and losing her sword, and that the world would still be standing if she hadn't gotten the sword and been the world's worst She-Ra. She even says the world would have been better if she had never come through that portal in the first place. I'm not sure if Catra knew about these insecurities in Adora, or if this has something to do with time and space collapsing, but Adora's finally had enough and she starts fighting back, which I'm very happy about. She's been allowing Catra to push her around for way too long. She tells Catra that she didn't make her pull the switch, and she didn't make her do anything. She says that she's going to fix everything, but Catra made her choice and now she has to live with it, as she punches her in the face. I think this is the most character development that Adora has ever gotten this entire series. I'm almost proud. She does look sad that it had to come to this, but then the platform they're standing on collapses, and they both fall into the void. Catra disappears and Adora looks like she's about to accept defeat, but then Queen Angella comes swooping in. Angella takes her back to solid ground and explains that she can remember everything and wants to help. They see the Sword of Protection above them, and Adora is finally able to make sense of Madame Raz's riddle. Apparently Go Back to the Beginning was referring to when Adora came to Etheria through that portal as a baby. She tells the queen she has to pull the sword out of the portal to bring everyone back. Angella asks if she'll be able to come back too, almost like she instinctively knows that something is wrong. And it's sweet that she cares. But Adora explains that this is her destiny and she doesn't really have a choice. Only for Angella to contradict her, saying this isn't the end for her. Then she asks Adora if she wants to know a secret, and her secret is that she's a coward. dad. So now she has to step up and be the leader she needs to be by making this sacrifice for Adora. I'm honestly not sure if the writers really understand what they're writing. This is not true at all. It seems more like she just internalized what Glimmer said to her in previous episodes. And I know the writers want Angella to come off as some kind of overprotective helicopter mom, but she really doesn't. At no point was Angella unreasonable towards her daughter or the others. And when was she cowardly? Back in season 1, she was willing to give herself up to the Horde just to get Glimmer back. And Glimmer thanked her by basically shunning her for the entire next episode. All she ever does is try to be strategic, which is pretty important when you're at war. But instead they have Angella disparage herself, I guess to make Glimmer look better by comparison? This just looks like another misstep for the series. If this show wants to see a true coward, they can just look at Huntara. She ran away to the Crimson Waste and stayed there until the best friends squad were able to kick her in the pants and get her moving again, only to be dropped by the narrative. So, not really sure what the point of that was. But Angella is no coward. The queen flies up to the sword despite Adora's protests, and she removes it from the portal, telling Adora to take care of each other. The portal disappears while the sword floats down to Adora, so the sword can come back, but the person can't? But things don't change back to normal until Adora calls out for the honor of Grayskull. So what would have happened if Adora had pulled the sword? Would things just not have come back? But we finally see She-Ra again. For a show called She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, we really didn't get much She-Ra in this season. She breaks the portal machine and the room starts to crumble. Catra runs to get Hordak, telling him they have to go now. Why does she care about him? Didn't she do this specifically to get revenge on everyone? Destroy the world so no one could win? You'd think she would just try to save herself. Hordak looks like he's still hung up on Entrapta, but he does leave with Catra. Catra ends up looking back, and the two of them have a stare down. But Adora is done with Catra, and Catra actually looks scared. I hope Adora stays that way. She's put up with her for long enough. The Princess Alliance reunites, but Shadow Weaver is still there and says that they have to go. She holds her hand out to Glimmer, who takes it and they teleport back to the runestone. So I guess Shadow Weaver is just here now. No real redemption or anything. Weird and uncomfortable. Everyone celebrates and Perfuma ends up hugging Shadow Weaver. Honestly, she deserves a little discomfort. Glimmer says that she's probably gonna be grounded for the rest of her life, but reality is back, and that maybe her mom will be so happy to see her she'll forget about grounding her, proving that she's learned nothing. Honestly, if she did end up getting grounded, she'd probably be angry at her mom, even though she's the one who didn't communicate. Not to mention she betrayed her mom for Shadow Weaver. Adora hugs Glimmer and tells her that her mom stayed behind to save them while dramatic music plays and they all cry. I can't get invested in this scene because honestly this never should have happened. Everything that goes wrong in this series is because our main characters just did whatever they wanted to and never communicated. Queen Angella deserved better. We've already gone over all the things that they could have done differently, like not going into the Crimson Waste without a plan or without talking to people, and all those things eventually led to this situation, and now Glimmer is the Queen of Bright Moon. What are they going to do with such an irresponsible queen? She's really not ready to lead a kingdom. This episode ends with Horde Prime getting the message from Hordak, letting him know where they are. So in the end, Hordak got what he wanted, but at what cost? Hope it was worth it. Well, this was probably the best finale we've gotten so far. This season was pretty underwhelming overall. The characters were particularly frustrating. It also felt like the rules of reality collapsing changed in this episode. Like Entrapta, Bo, and Glimmer are having this drawn out fading away effect happen to them instead of just disappearing like the others did when they were sucked into the void. It would have been nice if it had stayed consistent throughout. And it felt like there were a lot of loose ends with this season. I realize they want to end on an exciting cliffhanger so people will be drawn back for more She-Ra, but it would have been nice to get more closure on certain things. Like Huntara randomly being dropped from the season. It's almost like they totally forgot she was there. I can understand losing track of her after reality collapsed, but she probably would have been useful against the Horde when they invaded the Fright Zone. Maybe since she used to be a part of the Horde, she could have given them more knowledge that they hadn't been aware of before. Or she and Adora could have bonded over this shared experience. But it all just seemed like a missed opportunity. Maybe next season? If there is one. At least Adora finally let Catra have it at the very end of the season. It was pretty satisfying to see Adora get one good punch in after all the bullying she'd suffered from Catra. Catra really went off the deep end this season, and I'm not entirely sure if she can come back from it. But hopefully she'll be able to learn from this experience and not double down on her destructive past. But her leaving with Hordak at the end there doesn't make me hopeful. She still has a lot of potential as a character, but her victim mentality and blaming of other characters for her own actions is really grating. The show overall has a lot of interesting concepts and ideas, but I think the show would really benefit from more editing and more time put into the scripts. The show also would have benefited if it hadn't been a reboot and just been its own unique property, but I guess it is what it is now. As of right now, there hasn't been any kind of confirmation for a season 4. Netflix has been canceling a lot of animation lately, but they did promote She-Ra on Twitter, so I guess we'll have to wait and see. Honestly, we'll live if the show doesn't come back, but there are places for the story to go if it does come back. I'm sure they'll get Angella back, and maybe we can find out more about King Micah and where he's actually been all this time. I just hope they don't drag out the story if it does continue. I did appreciate that we got more plot this season, and hopefully this will be the pace that we get from now on. So those are our thoughts on the finale of season 3. Before we go, we wanted to give a shout out to RedKitty50 on Twitter for this cool piece of fan art. We love how dynamic it is and we really appreciate it. We also wanted to thank you all for sticking with us throughout this series. It really means a lot to us. Are you guys looking forward to a season 4? Do you guys think there will be a season 4? Because right now I feel like it could go either way. And what did you guys think of that Tumblr post about Mara? We'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed the video, you can leave a like and subscribe to the channel to see more content like this. Our episode reviews may be done, but we still have to talk about those Swiftwind shorts. Thanks for watching, we really appreciate it, and we'll see you all in the next video. Bye everyone. Bye guys.